1943. A secret research facility hidden in the English countryside. Douglas Everett strolled into the crowded staff bar with something deadly tucked inside his jacket sleeve. For the next several hours, the scientist shared drinks with fellow researchers, traded stories, joined the laughter echoing through the room. Not one person suspected that barely 9 inches of lethal engineering rested just above his elbow. Somewhere between the second and third round of drinks, Everett quietly discharged a .32 caliber bullet into a sandbag positioned nearby. The muffled report registered softer than someone snapping their fingers. Every colleague within arm's reach continued their conversations completely unaware. In that single moment, Everett confirmed what British engineers had spent years attempting to achieve. They had finally cracked the most ancient puzzle in the assassin's craft: how to execute a target surrounded by witnesses and disappear without anyone realizing what happened. The device responsible for this demonstration looked nothing like a traditional firearm, performed flawlessly under pressure, and reached the battlefield far too late to prove its worth in actual combat. Only 3 specimens exist in collections today. The sleeve gun stands as perhaps the most brilliantly designed weapon that never claimed a single documented life during wartime. British intelligence operatives working inside occupied Europe during 1940 and 1941 confronted a problem with no obvious solution. Their mission required eliminating specific individuals: senior Nazi administrators who orchestrated atrocities, Gestapo agents who extracted confessions through torture, local collaborators whose information sent entire resistance cells to firing squads. These targets understood the danger they faced. They never traveled without armed protection. Their bodyguards maintained constant vigilance. Conventional assassination approaches crumbled against such prepared defenses. A knife attack meant wrestling at close quarters and leaving biological evidence everywhere. Poison works slowly and investigators could trace procurement. Standard handguns announced themselves with thunderous reports that summoned reinforcements instantly. Even when operatives succeeded in their primary objective, surviving the aftermath became virtually impossible once gunfire alerted nearby soldiers. Station 9 engineers had already developed one partial answer: their Welrod silent pistol utilized ingenious barrel modifications to achieve remarkable noise reduction. Holes drilled along the barrel allowed propellant gases to bleed gradually into expansion chambers. Rubber and leather washers created seals around bullets as they traveled through. Metal dividers further slowed escaping gases. The resulting discharge measured roughly 73 decibels, comparable to a child's pellet rifle. Background noise in any occupied room would swallow the sound completely. Approximately 2,800 Welrods eventually deployed to agents across Europe. Confirmed eliminations occurred in Denmark, Norway, and France throughout the war. But the Welrod carried significant vulnerabilities. At 12 inches long with suppressor attached and weighing over 2 pounds, concealment required bulky overcoats. German security forces routinely searched suspicious individuals. Discovering a rigid metal tube hidden in someone's pocket guaranteed torture followed by execution. The weapon also demanded visible action to deploy. Reaching into clothing, withdrawing the pistol, acquiring aim, squeezing the trigger, each step consumed seconds and attracted attention. Alert bodyguards could react during that window. Intelligence planners needed something entirely different: a weapon invisible to the most thorough physical search, a weapon appearing in hand without obvious reaching movements, a weapon eliminating evidence automatically after firing. Major Hugh Quentin Elaine Reeves brought exactly the unconventional thinking this challenge required. Born 1909 in coastal Sussex, Reeves studied engineering at Cambridge before joining Station 9 among its most inventive minds. His wartime creations spanned wildly different operational needs: folding motorcycles compact enough for aircraft transport, single-occupant submarines for harbor infiltration, each bearing the facility's signature well designation. Beginning in 1943, Reeves focused his attention on the concealment problem. His solution would eventually receive the bland designation, item number 254, in classified catalogues. The bureaucratic label revealed nothing. The weapon itself revealed everything about how far British engineers would push assassination technology. Reeves incorporated proven suppressor technology from his earlier Welrod design. Identical principles governed sound reduction, barrel ports releasing propellant gases, into expansion chambers, rubber and leather discs sealing around projectiles, metal barriers slowing residual gas escape. These silencing components degraded after roughly 15 discharges, but extended service was never the intention. Official documentation stated explicitly that silencing elements could not be replaced, since prolonged use was never anticipated. Agents would fire once, accomplish their objective, then dispose of the evidence. The transformative innovation came in physical configuration. Instead of traditional pistol geometry with protruding grip and hammer, Reeves fashioned a simple metal tube, 8 3/4 inches in length, just over an inch in diameter. The cylindrical shape suggested a flashlight or metal wand rather than any recognizable weapon. This profile eliminated every element that might snag fabric or create suspicious contours during searches. No grip extending downward, no hammer jutting upward, no magazine protruding forward. 26 ounces distributed evenly throughout created substantial heft without suggesting firearm construction. The Chet 32 ACP cartridge delivered sufficient stopping power at intimate range while remaining subsonic when suppressed. Faster ammunition would crack through the sound barrier regardless of barrel engineering, announcing itself through that unmistakable supersonic snap. Standard triggers would have undermined the entire concealment philosophy. Reeves engineered a completely unconventional firing mechanism. A textured sliding switch positioned near the muzzle demanded deliberate two-stage manipulation. The operator pushed forward, then pulled backward. This sequence rendered accidental discharge essentially impossible, while the weapon remained hidden inside clothing. The design also eliminated separate safety components that might catch on fabric. The initial prototype chambered-in .22 long rifle suffered critical defects. The lightweight cartridge lacked reliable stopping power. The sensitive trigger proved dangerously prone to unintended activation. Operatives genuinely risked wounding themselves through careless movement while the gun rested above their elbow. Fewer than 50 problematic early models reached production before engineers pivoted. The refined second version corrected every identified weakness. Upgraded 2.32 ACP ammunition guaranteed lethality. Redesigned trigger components demanded more deliberate activation. Repositioned cocking mechanisms prevented fabric snagging during deployment. The delivery system represented perhaps the most inspired element of the entire project. A small hole at the suppressor end accepted an elastic rubber cord. This cord attached to the operative's shoulder, running beneath clothing along the inner arm. In ready position, the sleeve gun rested invisibly above the elbow inside any long-sleeved jacket. The smooth, tubular profile created no suspicious bulges during visual inspection or physical patting. When circumstances demanded action, the operative simply relaxed their arm. Gravity drew the weapon downward through fabric into their waiting palm. Cylindrical surfaces with zero protrusions glided through sleeve material without catching. Official documentation specified direct contact with targets as the intended use, though reasonable accuracy extended to approximately 3 yards. The concave muzzle face permitted flush pressing against clothing or skin. An operative could approach during ostensibly friendly interaction. A handshake greeting, a congratulatory embrace, a reassuring pat on the shoulder. The weapon materialized through natural arm motion. One movement pressed the muzzle against the target's body. The two-stage trigger activated. 73 decibels emerged, softer than surrounding conversation. Softer than glasses touching or furniture shifting. Following discharge, the operative released their grip. Elastic tension automatically retracted the weapon back inside the sleeve. The spent cartridge case remained lodged in the breech rather than ejecting to the floor. This left investigators with nothing. No brass casings marking shooter position. No visible weapon in anyone's possession. No powder residue indicating the responsible party since muzzle contact occurred through clothing. Security personnel arriving moments later discovered only a collapsed victim, bewildered onlookers, and no apparent perpetrator. The operative could register shock alongside everyone else, could assist searching for the mysterious attacker, could eventually depart without arousing suspicion. Perfect execution. Perfect extraction. Perfect concealment of method and identity. Every component reflected total operational security. No manufacturer stamps appeared anywhere on the weapon. No national origin markings, no identifying symbols beyond serial numbers, meaningless without classified reference documents. Captured examples would reveal nothing tracing back to Britain. The Birmingham Small Arms Company likely manufactured these devices, though BSA has consistently declined, confirming covert wartime production details. Manufacturing almost certainly occurred in isolated facilities, completely segregated from documented military contract. Competing system. American intelligence developed their own concealed weapons with considerably less sophistication. The OSS Stinger pen gun chambered in .22 short reached production quantities around 50,000 units. However, early versions suffered reliability failures, including misfires and catastrophic barrel ruptures. The underpowered cartridge required precise placement against the brainstem for reliable effect. Zero suppression meant sharp reports alerting everyone nearby. No automatic concealment followed firing. Operatives held obvious evidence in hand. The Sedgley glove pistol offered greater lethality chambered in .38 special, but cruder concealment. Mounted on leather gloves with plunger triggers, it fired when wearers punched their targets. Production reached perhaps 200 units. Obvious bulges made the device impractical. Without careful sleeve coverage, complete absence of suppression meant the substantial .38 report would deafen shooters in enclosed spaces, while alerting guards across entire buildings. Germany developed no equivalent covert assassination technology. Research across Gestapo, SD and Abwehr archives reveals nothing comparable to British or American systems. German security services relied on conventional concealed pistols like the compact Walther PPK. Their operational philosophy emphasized overt intimidation and surveillance rather than deniable elimination. British advantages over every Allied equivalent remained clear. Purpose-built integral suppressors, achieving approximately 73 decibel levels. Automatic evidence concealment through elastic retraction with retained casings. Complete manufacturer sanitization. The strategic impact came not through battlefield results, but through the weapon's very existence, altering enemy calculations. German security forces knew British intelligence possessed sophisticated silent weapons, captured Wellrids, and interrogated agents revealed SOE capabilities. This knowledge forced changes in protection protocols. Officials reduced public appearances. Guard details expanded. Security sweeps intensified. The mere possibility that assassins could kill silently during friendly interactions created operational paranoia, limiting target accessibility. The sleeve gun contributed to this psychological effect, regardless of documented kills. Weapon blueprints reportedly remain classified in the United Kingdom even now, 8 decades later. Extraordinary sensitivity for World War II-era technology, suggesting continued relevance of suppressor and covert weapons engineering. April 1943. A hidden research facility in the English countryside, Douglas Everett entered a crowded bar, carrying something lethal concealed above his elbow. The evening proceeded normally. Drinks flowed. Conversations continued. At some unremarked moment, Everett discharged a bullet into a waiting sandbag. Nobody heard. Nobody noticed. Nobody reacted. The demonstration validated everything. Suppression worked. Concealment worked. Deployment worked. Retraction worked. British engineers had created perhaps the most elegant assassination system ever devised. Then the war concluded before anyone could employ it against actual targets. 3 examples survive in museum vaults. Technical drawings remain classified after 80 years. 0 confirmed kills appear in operational archives. The sleeve gun endures as the most successful weapon that never took a single life. Proof that sometimes the finest engineering produces legends more permanent than victories. Before any operative could carry the sleeve gun into occupied territory, extensive preparation ensured they understood both the weapon's capabilities and its severe limitations. Training occurred at isolated facilities throughout the British countryside, far from curious eyes and potential enemy informants. Instructors emphasized the psychological demands above technical proficiency. Firing a suppressed weapon into a sandbag differed enormously from pressing that same muzzle against another human being's chest during what appeared to be friendly conversation. The operative needed to maintain completely natural behavior while knowing they were about to kill someone standing inches away. Any hesitation, any tremor in the voice, any unusual tension in body language might alert the target or nearby guards. Trainees practiced the deployment motion thousands of times until muscle memory took over completely. The arm relaxation allowing gravity to slide the weapon downward, had to appear entirely natural. Observers watching closely should notice nothing unusual. The hand closing around the arriving cylinder needed to happen smoothly, without grasping motions that might catch attention. Contact firing presented its own challenges. The operative had to position the muzzle against the target's torso firmly enough to prevent slippage during trigger activation, but naturally enough that the target felt nothing alarming. A sudden hard pressure against the chest would trigger defensive reactions. The touch needed gentleness disguising lethal intent. Instructors drilled escape procedures with equal intensity. After firing, operatives practiced releasing the weapon smoothly, allowing elastic retraction, while simultaneously adopting expressions of shock and confusion, matching everyone else in the room. They rehearsed dialogue, expressing alarm at the victim's sudden collapse. They practiced offering assistance while subtly positioning themselves near exits. The complete operational sequence from approach through extraction required perhaps 15 seconds of actual activity, surrounded by hours of patient waiting and careful observation. Identifying the optimal moment demanded reading social dynamics, guard positions, sight lines, and escape routes simultaneously. The sleeve gun provided capability. Training provided judgment about when and how to employ it. This knowledge poisoned every social interaction for high-value targets. The friendly businessman requesting a meeting might be an assassin. The attractive woman seeking introduction at a party might carry death in her evening gloves. The fellow officer extending congratulations might press a weapon against your ribs during the handshake. Paranoia spread through occupation hierarchies. Officials who previously moved freely through subject populations began restricting public appearances. Security details expanded from practical protection into theatrical displays meant to discourage approaches. Routine activities like restaurant meals or theater attendance became elaborate security operations. This behavioral change served British strategic interests regardless of whether assassinations actually occurred. Isolated officials made poorer administrators. Paranoid commanders made worse decisions. Occupation forces that feared the population they controlled struggled to extract cooperation or intelligence. The sleeve gun represented the ultimate expression of this psychological warfare, a weapon specifically designed for killing during friendly physical contact, transformed every handshake into potential threat. German security could search suspects thoroughly and still miss a simple metal tube resting above the elbow. The impossibility of complete protection against such weapons created persistent anxiety that degraded operational effectiveness across entire occupation structures. When hostilities concluded in May 1945, the sleeve gun's story did not end entirely. British intelligence services transitioned from wartime operations against Nazi Germany toward new confrontations with Soviet expansion. The covert weapons expertise accumulated at Station 9 proved directly relevant to emerging Cold War requirements. Suppressor technology continued advancing through subsequent decades. The fundamental principles Reeves pioneered, ported barrels bleeding gases into expansion chambers, rubber and leather wipes sealing around projectiles, metal baffles slowing residual release, informed every subsequent British development in this field. The well rod remained in active inventory precisely because its design philosophy proved timeless. Documented use during the Falklands War in 1982 and Desert Storm in 1991 demonstrated continued operational relevance. 4 and 5 decades after initial deployment, Special Operations Forces valued the weapon's reliability, simplicity, and proven suppression capabilities. Whether sleeve gun concepts influenced Cold War weapon development remains unknown. Classified blueprint status suggests possible continued relevance. Intelligence services rarely abandon successful designs entirely. More likely, specific elements found incorporation into subsequent programs even if the complete sleeve gun concept never achieved revival. The elastic retraction system represented particularly elegant engineering that might inform modern concealment approaches. Automatic evidence elimination through retained casings addressed problems that persist in covert operations today. Contact-optimized muzzle design for flush firing against targets remains relevant whenever deniable close-range elimination becomes necessary. Different disposal pressures than field-deployed equipment. The post-war period brought systematic destruction of sensitive materials. The 1946 Baker Street fire eliminated significant SOE documentation, whether accidentally or deliberately remains debated. Subsequent weeding of surviving files removed additional materials deemed too sensitive for eventual declassification. Physical equipment likely faced similar treatment. Captured enemy examples would have entered German intelligence archives, but no such specimens have ever surfaced. Either German forces never captured a sleeve gun, or captured examples were destroyed during the war's chaotic conclusion. Soviet forces overrunning German intelligence facilities might have seized any captured Allied covert weapons, potentially explaining continued classification of British blueprints if similar designs appeared in Eastern Bloc arsenals. The three museum survivors probably represent the complete population of preserved examples. Serial numbers 1, 8, and 11 suggest early production units retained for evaluation rather than field deployment. Numbers 2 through 7, 9, 10, and 12 onward vanished into operational channels and subsequent destruction. Contemporary weapons experts examining surviving examples express consistent amazement at the engineering sophistication achieved with 1940s manufacturing technology. The sleeve gun anticipated design principles that modern suppressed weapons employed decades later. The integral suppressor concept, building sound reduction directly into the weapon rather than attaching aftermarket accessories, became standard for specialized military and intelligence applications. Modern integrally suppressed pistols follow the same philosophy Reeves pioneered, accepting reduced barrel length and ammunition capacity in exchange for optimized noise reduction and compact profiles. The two-stage trigger mechanism preventing accidental discharge while eliminating separate safety components influenced subsequent designs, requiring similar concealment optimization. Modern weapons intended for covert carry often employ comparable approaches, ensuring reliable function without external levers or buttons that might catch on clothing or require fine motor manipulation under stress. The elastic retraction system has no direct modern equivalent, perhaps because contemporary operations rarely require the specific capability it provided. However, the underlying concept of automatic evidence elimination continues informing covert weapons development. Caseless ammunition, dissolvable components, and other approaches address the same fundamental problem Reeves solved through simple elastic cords. Materials analysis of surviving examples reveals manufacturing quality matching or exceeding contemporary military standards, despite production occurring in isolated workshops under wartime resource constraints. Component tolerances and surface finishes demonstrate exceptional craftsmanship. The Birmingham Small Arms Company, if indeed responsible for manufacturing, applied their finest precision capabilities to these covert contracts. Several mysteries surrounding the sleeve gun remain permanently unresolved. Primary among them, did any operative ever actually fire this weapon against a human target? The complete absence of documentation proves nothing definitively. SOE operations emphasized deniability throughout. Successful assassinations that left no evidence would generate no reports acknowledging methods employed. An operative who killed a German official using the sleeve gun and escaped cleanly might never have filed paperwork identifying the specific weapon used. Resistance networks receiving SOE equipment operated under even less documentation pressure. Norwegian, Danish or French fighters supplied with sleeve guns would have left no British records of subsequent employment. Local operations occurred without London oversight. Results mattered more than reports. The weapon's intended use, killing during intimate physical contact, would have generated exactly the confusion the design anticipated. Victims collapsing without apparent cause. No witnesses identifying shooters. No evidence suggesting method. Such deaths might have been attributed to poison, heart failure, or unknown causes rather than gunshot wounds from suppressed weapons. Medical examination would eventually reveal bullet wounds, but by that point the assassin would be long departed. German investigators might have suspected silent weapons without confirming specific types. Reports of such incidents might never have reached archives that survived the war. The honest assessment acknowledges we cannot know with certainty. The sleeve gun may have claimed victims whose deaths were never connected to this specific weapon. Absence of evidence differs from evidence of absence. The perfect assassination leaves no proof it occurred. Beyond its specific historical context, the sleeve gun illuminates broader principles about weapons development and operational innovation. First, engineering excellence alone does not guarantee operational impact. The sleeve gun achieved every technical specification its designers established. Suppression matched proven standards. Concealment exceeded any alternative. Deployment functioned reliably. Yet timing failures meant this exceptional weapon never demonstrated its capabilities against actual targets. Second, unconventional thinking produces unconventional solutions. Reeves approached the assassination problem from the user's perspective, rather than the engineer's. He asked what operatives actually needed, rather than what existing technology could provide. This orientation produced genuinely novel concepts like elastic retraction that conventional weapons designers would never have considered. Third, psychological effects can exceed physical effects. The sleeve gun's contribution to German paranoia probably exceeded whatever actual assassinations might have accomplished. Fear of silent killing during friendly interactions constrained target behavior throughout occupied territories. The weapon achieved strategic impact through existence rather than employment. Fourth, some innovations arrive before their moment. The sleeve gun solved real problems through elegant engineering, but operational circumstances prevented validation. Similar concepts might prove valuable under different conditions. The design principles remain available for future application whenever requirements align with capabilities. Finally, secrecy has costs beyond benefits. Classification protecting sleeve gun blueprints for 8 decades has prevented detailed technical analysis that might inform modern development. Whatever sensitivity originally justified this restriction has surely diminished, yet bureaucratic inertia maintains barriers long after original rationales expire. The sleeve gun occupies a unique position in weapons history. Neither proven success nor documented failure, it exists in perpetual potential, the weapon that could have changed everything, but never received the opportunity to try. This ambiguity feeds persistent fascination. Confirmed operational history would anchor the sleeve gun in specific events, specific targets, specific outcomes. Instead, imagination fills the vacuum. Every covert killing in every thriller novel or espionage film carries echoes of what the sleeve gun promised. The weapon became more powerful through mystery than it ever could have, through documented performance. Combat employment would have revealed limitations alongside capabilities. Actual assassinations would have generated countermeasures and defensive responses. The sleeve gun's eternal potential exceeds any finite accomplishment. 3 examples behind museum glass. Classified blueprints in government vaults. 0 confirmed kills in any archive. The sleeve gun endures as pure possibility. The assassination weapon so perfect it transcended the need for actual use. British engineering transformed into permanent legend through the simple accident of arriving too late for the war. It was designed to win.